All right, family, pull on up, get your drink, and let's talk about it. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a doozy. Not really a doozy in the sense of like freak out doozy, but just to make you aware of what's going on. So if you didn't know, on my channel, there's certain areas that I make sure that I hit and that I prepare and that I talk about a lot. And we all know food, water, meds. Water being one of the biggest ones. Food obviously is pretty high up there, food preservation, that type of thing. And grid down is a huge piece of what I talk about. But security and fortification is really important, and also what I'm going to talk about today, which is infectious diseases. I track a lot of that stuff. I'm constantly looking at CDC. I'm constantly looking at websites, tracking news, tracking outbreaks, tracking that stuff to just understand where things are happening in our world. I think that it's important to understand and just know what is happening in different parts of the world, because we live in a world where travel is so easy to do. Lots of people do it on a regular basis, as far as not just vacations and stuff, but I'm talking about just people in the workforce, right? There's a lot of trade and supply and business that is done overseas in the capacity of a lot of travel, right? Traveling overseas and then within and through different countries while they're over there. And then a lot of folks, obviously they come home, they're from America, and they end up coming home to the United States, where the actual business is out of or whatever. And same thing, you have international folks who work or live internationally and come here for work, for business, for meetings, for different things, ventures, whatever. And so because we are so versatile in travel, we're so advanced as far as people can really go anywhere they want in the world, there's a bigger pose of danger, if you will, of the transmission of infectious diseases and viruses and this and that. I would say more than obviously a super spreader event, these big events where they say stay away from people and don't be in people's bubbles, that stuff is important. But to me, travel and putting a bigger emphasis on travel is more important to me and stopping an infectious disease. Going back and forth between different countries. I mean, you saw COVID, I don't know. Again, I was one of those folks that was tracking it. I was tracking all the numbers. I was tracking all the countries, our country. I was tracking states. I was tracking everything, right? And because I wanted to know, I was very curious how other countries were doing, and with their numbers, I wanted to know how many people were dying. Was there any kind of patterns? I wanted to know that stuff. And although I was, in my little apartment at the time, that stuff's important to me. And so now it's no different. We have an outbreak that you're starting to see across social media, really across folks like me, this platform, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, folks, though, that talk about this type of stuff. And so currently we have an outbreak of Marburg. There's certain words that trigger me more than other words. Marburg is one of them. Smallpox is one of them. Ebola is one of them. When I hear of hemorrhagic fever in general, I don't totally freak out, but it does get my attention. For example, China had an outbreak a little bit last year while they were dealing with COVID. And so there was some concern there, but there wasn't a lot. There's a little bit of valley fever talk going around, which is a fever that goes around, a virus that goes around with the southern states where it gets a little bit warmer. Excuse me, so that you have that going around. Of course, we have monkeypox, which is just a much milder version, if you will, of smallpox. Well, Marburg, and the reason why all those ones give me pause is those are all things that Mr. Yates, if you will, has mentioned that we need to be prepared for. Him and his team, him and his foundations, him and his virus, bacteria, whatever places that he owns, those folks have access to these viruses and diseases and supposedly are working on medications and how to do it. But he's always professing that there's going to be bigger and badder pandemics. He's always professing certain things are going to happen. He's always professing like smallpox is going to happen in a bioterrorism event. He's always talking about Marburg. Doesn't really talk a lot about Ebola, but Marburg is a sister, if you will, a cousin to Ebola. So it's in that same family, right? Comes from bats. transmissions from bats, jumps to humans, and then can go back and forth, humans, right? Highly contagious. It is not airborne. So, I mean, if there's a silver liner, there's a plus to something, I suppose that could be it. However, the death rate is just extremely high. If you look at stats, anywhere from 24%, depending on different outbreaks, 24% to 80%. But just to give you an example, there was a huge outbreak back in 2004 in Angola. And this is a disease, and I hope I don't sound some kind of way. I mean, whatever. I really don't care at this point. African countries, parts and territories of Africa are where these diseases tend to pop up. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because you have a lot of cultures that eat completely different food than you and I. So like you and I would go out and be like, hey, it's totally cool to go out and hunt a deer, kill it, skin it, eat it. That's how they feel about, a lot of those places feel about bats and other animals. And so bats are a delicacy. Bats are something that they bush meat. They go out, they hunt it, they eat it, okay? And so you have this popping up more in that country, okay? So right now there's an outbreak. It's in, I don't know how you say the first word, Equatorial Guinea, okay? This is not the actual Guinea, right? Just straight Guinea. Guinea is up there by Ghana. This is down closer to the Congo, which is actually where there was a Marburg outbreak, you guys, 6 months ago in the year 2022. So just 6 months ago, just this summer that just passed, there was an outbreak of Marburg, and it outbroke in the Congo. And a handful of people died, a couple handfuls of people died. And actually, that one I think wasn't a handful. I think it was like a family died, right? But it was a handful of people, nipped it in the butt for the most part, lasted 3 or 4 months from start to finish, start to farting. Oh my goodness, my words. Started in June, like was completely done in August, but totally announced, hey, we're done in September, right? This just happened 6 months ago. And what's unique is that Equatorial, where this outbreak is happening now in Guinea, that right there only has like one tiny little sliver of a territory between that and the Congo. So they're very, very close in relation. And just south of that is Angola, which is where that huge outbreak happened in 2004. Now listen, a lot of people are like, okay, you're talking a whole lot about Africa. You're talking about a whole lot of outbreaks that don't happen over here. We do not have to be concerned with this. What does this have to do with prepping? What does this have to do with preparedness? I track this stuff because this absolutely has to do with you and your family and ensuring that you have the preps, you have stuff stockpiled, and you're ready to go when this stuff comes to our doorstep. Okay, I'm not saying that this particular outbreak is going to make it to the States, is going to make it to your doorstep, but I'm saying that you need to be aware that infectious diseases are out there. Understand how they are spread, how different ones are spread, whether it's airborne, whether in this case it's bodily fluids, it's blood, it's semen, it's you can get this from kissing, from having sex. You can have this, you can get this from just sweat, right? If you're playing an intense sport and you're sweating and your bodies are touching, that's bad. Feces, vomiting, so you think about how would this affect us? How would it come into the country? Well, you have a lot of folks that medical folks, doctors without borders, doctors, nurses, healthcare providers that go over there to these countries to help them, to give out medicine, to give shots, to do this stuff. And so they are literally on the front lines of these countries that are going through these different virus outbreaks, right? So you have that folks, you have church folks, tons and tons of outreach type groups that go over there to help people, okay? And you have all those people that come home. That is a big group of people that could come home and potentially, spread some stuff, right? Travel is huge. It only takes, whether it's a healthcare worker, a church worker, an outreach type person, somebody traveling to Africa for work, they're in the city parts of Africa, but it does not matter because people travel within the country, within that country, and could be sick and then go to the country. And then somebody that is, is ready to travel, whether they're American or not, ready to travel from there to the United States. Maybe it goes a whole different pathway. They take it back to the UK and then it travels and it comes. this is the thing. This is the scary part, is like the movies portray as far as how fast a contagion can spread. That is the truth. And I think that you should take pause and understand how these things work and understand what's happening in the world, so that if it gets out of hand, you start seeing more articles, you start seeing numbers rise, you can kind of be like, okay, this is kind of getting somewhere, and you're way ahead of whatever the social media, mainstream media is ever going to tell you. They're not going to tell you stuff in a timely manner. I mean, we were talking about monkeypox way before they started talking about monkeypox. Same thing, COVID, people were talking about what's going on, what's happening way before, okay? It is very, very important that you track this stuff and kind of understand what's happening so that you are ahead of stuff. You should already be prepping the water, the food, the medicines. But in this case, what are the specific things? What are the symptoms? Having those things to help assist a family member. People will say, well, if I get this, well, no crap, I'm going to the hospital. Why would I need my auntie to take care of me, and because I have this? Well, think about an actual outbreak and this happens. Imagine the death rate of this is way more nastier than COVID, and we couldn't even handle COVID, you guys. Our system got broke by COVID. So imagine what a big time outbreak like Ebola, a super killer, if you will, comes through in any capacity, we're done, okay? And so it will become people staying home, and if somebody gets sick, they're trying to help that person. Another reason why this is so big and prevalent in Africa is not only the bad aspect of it, but in their culture, they ready the bodies after death. So imagine you have somebody who's sick from virus, and then multiple women come in, family members come in and get that body ready, okay? And they are possibly dealing with bodily fluids, stuff that happens after death, blood, depending on how nasty it was of a death, right? They're touching the body, okay? They're getting skin, fluid, blood. They're getting all of that stuff. Feces, possibly, urine, all of that stuff. And so that's another aspect to this of why it's so prevalent when these things pop up. Why do they keep popping up there, okay? It's just another piece of spreading, if you will, and why it's such a big thing. With this current one, you have 9 people that have died so far. You have 200 people that are quarantined or that they're watching, right? You have at least 16 or more now that they are suspecting that they have it, right? The test hasn't come in, but they're suspecting that those 16 people absolutely have it, right? And you talk about death rates. This has, a 24 to 88, but in 2004, it had like a 90%. It was like 123 folks died out of like 148 cases or something along those lines, right? So this is no laughing matter. This is not something to take lightly. It's not something to lose sleep on. It's not to be like, oh my gosh, we're about to have an outbreak over here. It's just to ready your mind, if you will, because we know that they are setting up big things for us, and a big part of that is going to be an international, cluster F, if you will, in regards to a pandemic, a huge pandemic too, right? Like Black Plague level, like big bodies in the streets, overrun hospitals, bad, because we're not ready. We are not prepared for that level. We already saw that with COVID. And if you think that hospitals ran out and were like, okay, I got to have like 10 times the PPE. We got to have 20 times. We got to have all the things. They're not ready for that. Are they ready for outbreaks? Do they do training? Absolutely. But do you think that they have dedicated PPE that's just for this type of outbreak? No, they just have PPE in general. And as things happen and ebbs and flows, that stuff goes down. And if stuff's not happening, there's complacency, there's money that matters. All that stuff plays into it. And so I just think that it's important that you have elites who warn us all the time this stuff is coming. Bill Gates and their latest thing with them doing their whole tabletop and saying that SARS is the next big thing. You got H1N1 or whatever. You got the bird flu. You got that whole family there. I mean, you just have a lot of different things to watch, right? And all I'm saying is to understand what's happening in the world. Maybe every few days, pop in your Google. I mean, you're Googling other stuff. You're looking at other stuff. Pop every couple of days, just pop in there, hey, Marburg update, and check out and see, has the death rates gone up? Are they getting it under control? On Instagram, it was circulating, the form, a leaked document, if you will, of the notes of the WHO, meeting, having an emergency. I mean, it said it at the top of the document. It was like the notes from an emergency meeting for this Marburg outbreak yesterday on the 14th. Now, of course they're having meetings. Of course they're getting ready. They're getting ready. They're going to send hundreds of folks over there to help and assist and all this stuff. That's not really a red flag. But the fact that they're calling an emergency meeting, this is serious. There's some aspect of this that they are taking very, very serious. Of course they're going to meet. But to say this is like right now, we got to jump on this when there's already entities, there's already things happening and getting in place. And so hopefully that's a sign that they're truly going to, I mean, I don't even want to get into it because my trust levels are like all the way down. You know what I'm saying? My walls are all the way up. My trust is all the way down. I don't trust anything that is the narrative that is, told to us. Even a situation like this, I'm reporting, there's 9 deaths and there's this, and it really could be 10 times worse. And we're just not getting that clear picture. It's just like what's going on in Ohio. We're not going to get the whole picture. Okay. And that's why I track it as well, because if I can even get snippets and pay attention here and there to what's happening, and then when I identify, okay, stuff's getting a little hairy, stuff's getting, this is good, this, right? I'm wondering, this is a big deal, how our airports are hopefully already engaged with this. This is an outbreak that's already happening. So hopefully all of our airports that have any kind of travel from at least Africa right now, that there's some sort of contingencies in place. And they're not just saying, well, we're only doing tracking, because that's what happens. You have an outbreak, they do the trace back, they're tracing those folks back, they quarantine or tell those people, hey, you have to incubate 21 days, you have to stay away from people, right? But we all know how these things can travel and be very, very wonky. And so I just hope that there's some kind of, coming from Africa. Which part of Africa are you coming from? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you have contact with any of this, right? Just as a baseline of a questionnaire, so that if they have to circle back, it's easy to do so. I don't know that I trust that those contingencies, that those things are happening and being done. I just don't trust it. I mean, look how long it takes for something to happen. They look at it for a while, and then finally the public knows. Like the whole eye bacteria thing. That was going on since like June, and we're just now really kind of finding out about it, in February. So it just blows my mind. You honestly have to be your own detective, and you have to track this stuff yourself and do the research. And when you see stuff that says an outbreak, a virus, a bacteria outbreak, whatever, I just click it open and just read it. And a lot of times it's just little things that are happening around the world or around the United States. Maybe it's an outbreak of this, and it's a couple people affected. There's no deaths, and it's cool. It's just okay, noted. It's in my head, right? It's not, you're not losing sleep over it. It's not anything crazy. I don't want you guys to scream from the rooftops, Marburg outbreak. I just want you to be aware. That's all. And you have to have this skill set of kind of tracking and understanding and paying attention enough, open up enough to see what's happening around the rest of the world, and not be so close-minded that, well, that doesn't affect me, so I do not care. Why do I care about what's happening in Africa? You should care. You should care what's happening in other parts of the countries, or in the other countries. You should. And that doesn't just go from viruses and things like that. You should kind of understand their political background, the things that are happening, the dialogues that are happening with those countries, policies and things that they're putting into place. Those things matter as big thing, especially with them wanting to push this whole one world type order thing, right? It's important to pay attention. But again, if you want to just keep blinders on, baby, and keep it pushing. And you probably don't need to be even on this channel, because this is what we talk about. This is what we do over here. we're just a bunch of moms and dads preparing our families. So I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys week is doing good. I got out in the garden yesterday and did a bunch of cleanup, just sweeping up, moving pots around, cleaning up pots, cutting down some more dead stuff. You know, seeing all the new growth of stuff starting to come back. That's super, super exciting. So I'm just very excited for stuff to get green and luscious around here again. And I'm figuring out layouts of exactly where I'm going to put stuff. I mean, even to now, I'll plan stuff out, and then every day it's like, oh, maybe I want to do this, or I'll see something new and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm going to arrange it this way, or I'm going to do this. So excited. Hope you're getting just as excited as me for that. And I'll see you guys later. For those that are joining us on Patreon, thank you so much. Today on Patreon, we're going to dive super, super deep into the Ohio stuff and how to protect your family. Way more than yesterday's video on here, just because I just can't talk freely over here. I just can't. And over there, I literally never have to think about the words that are coming out of my mouth. I don't have to think about anything. I can just speak freely. And so after yesterday's video, I had a lot of folks reaching out to me, stressed, emailing me, asking more specific questions. Please check out my water video series. It's a playlist. Go to my playlist, go down. It's called Water Preparedness. I linked it in yesterday's video. People still couldn't find it. I think that if you have a computer, those don't automatically come up. But if you have a cell phone, you open up the description box at the end, it will have all the videos that I've posted, and I posted the playlist. I also posted it at the end of that video. But there's so much more to talk about when we talk about air quality, how do you keep your family safe, which states are, you know, in harm's way, if you will. Should you be concerned? Water stuff, underground water stuff. There's just a lot of stuff to be thought about. I almost said economical. Environmental effects this is going to have on our ecosystem is devastating. And you still have folks all over the place just walking around, their animals outside. So anyway, we're going to get into that on Patreon. But I hope you guys are still enjoying the videos over here, okay? So I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next video. You guys take care. Have a blessed day. Bye.